The Mercy Ship project started in 2019 when Mercy Ship contacted us with a request that they needed mechanical ventilators for their ships. They are a non-profit charity organization that has the two largest non-governmental hospital ships in the world currently. And at that point, they only had one ship, the Africa Mercy, and they were planning to build the Global Mercy as well. And this was the first ship that they would build from the ground up. So the Africa Mercy was a former cruise ship that they remodeled to be a hospital ship. And then these ships go to Africa with volunteers and provide essential surgical care for people in need or people that are underprivileged or cannot afford these surgical procedures, or they are not available. And we found this was a really good cause to support. And they needed 8 ventilators for both the ships. And they got the Hamilton T1 ventilator as well as the H900 humidifier. And we have been invited to visit the running ship, so to go to Sierra Leone to see how our devices there make an impact for the people. And it was a really great experience. My first impressions when I arrived was obviously that the ship is huge. It's a massive ship and it's super, super modern on the inside because it was brand new. Everything looked super modern, super polished, very high end. And I just imagined how that must be for the people of Sierra Leone. You know, they live in rather simple conditions, sometimes without running water, sometimes without electricity, and then come to such an environment which must be like a spaceship experience almost. The second thing that really made an impression on me was the people that are on the ship. They were all super open, super friendly, and you feel like that they're genuinely good people. And since they all had kind of the same purpose and the same cause why they were there, it was such a harmony and like such a pleasant environment to be in. And this really carried on into the whole experience on the ship. Mercy Ship organized interviews with a lot of people on board, from everyone from the captain to the service engineers to the clinical people that work with our devices to a volunteer family. So I really talked to a very many people, officially and unofficially. So sometimes I just met them for lunch, for example, or for dinner. And obviously for me, the most interesting were the ones that actually work with our devices and interact with them. And one of the coolest things was that after this announcement on Monday morning at this meeting, we went for a coffee in the afternoon, and one of the service engineers on the ship approached me and was like, "Oh, you are the one from Hamilton Medical, right?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And yeah, I'm a service engineer from the Netherlands, and I've been working with Hamilton Medical devices my whole life. And he told me how much he enjoys working with our devices because they're really easy to maintain and to repair and do service on. And then I also got to meet his Sierra Leonean volunteer, a young lady that was also a service technician that worked with him. And she learned how to service our devices over the Hamilton Tech Support Academy. That was very impressive to see that our Tech Support Academy is very helpful for these people as well. I was lucky that I could meet also the Chief Medical Officer, and she told me a little bit of why our devices were selected for the Mercy Ship. And this is because A, we were the most responsive in this whole process from all of the companies that they approached. And B, they had multiple people on board that already had experience with working with Hamilton devices and suggested to use us. And then she explained me a little bit what the requirements are for a mechanical ventilator on a ship, on a hospital ship like this. And one of the requirements is actually that during an evacuation, they can leave the ship rather quickly. So this is the reason why they needed a transport ventilator, also one device that they can use on all of the patients. And they also specifically liked that it was very easy to use and that, there's not much instruction needed for doctors that come in. They do not have that many ventilated patients because they mainly do surgeries. So the surgeries that they did in Sierra Leone were mostly disfigurements that people had, like big tumors that got removed. There were a lot of children on the ship that had burn wounds or burn scar tissue from burns, because they cook a lot with open fire still in Sierra Leone, and children tend to fall into the fire. And because they do not get to a doctor, or the burns are not tended to correctly, sometimes they scar and they disfigure the children. And these are surgeries like reconstructive surgery to make them look better and give them full movement of their limbs. There is people that are born with birth defects, like crooked legs, for example, or something like this that gets corrected. The critical care cases that they have that go to the ICU and then that maybe need a ventilator are from the surgeries that they do. So maybe they come out and have swollen airways after the surgeries and need to stay on the ventilator for longer, or there has been an issue and they have to stay under anesthesia for longer. And this is then when they are put on our ventilators or to the critical care unit. What made the most emotional impact on me was obviously when I get to interact with the patients. And I got the chance twice to interact closely with patients, and one time was the afternoon playtime for the children. So all of the children that are well enough to go outside to the play deck. So there is a deck that is furnished with toys and chairs and everything. So the children and their families can go outside and play for an hour or two. And I got to go there and interact with the children, which was really heartwarming because they don't have any kind of problems, even though I didn't speak their language, even though I didn't look like them, to approach me and call me and be like, hey, come play with us. And it was also very heartbreaking to see, the kind of burns that they have. Most of them had really like severe burns on their hands, on their face sometimes, on their legs. But it was great to see them smile and play together, and how this project is really helping them to get better. And the second time was when I got to go with the chaplaincy service. So the chaplaincy service is kind of a mental health institution on the ship, because you got to imagine that these people come from very rural areas, and they come to the ship, and the adults come sometimes alone, and it must be very scary situation for them. And also there is the language barrier with everyone. And so the chaplaincy service goes around and prays with the people and sings with them and takes care of their mental health and their mental well-being. And I get to do rounds with them as well. And this was extremely emotional because the chaplaincy obviously introduced who I was and that we donated the ventilators for the ICU. And then they started praying for me and sang a song for me, and it was really, really touching and moving. And then we also got to speak to some adult patients. One man that had a huge tumor removed that was kind of disfiguring his face, and he could still not really talk very well, but you could see the large scars from where the tumor was removed. And then there was another man behind him who called me to him, and he couldn't speak my language, but then eventually he would fist bump me, and then he wanted a hug. And it was like such a beautiful experience for me. My takeaways obviously from this trip are how much impact we can really have with these kinds of projects that we support, how we can influence not only the people that help other people in these countries and make their life easier or make their life better or make it easier for them to help others, but also really the gratitude that is displayed by the people that received this help. And this was such a beautiful experience. I could imagine to volunteer actually at some point, maybe in my career myself on these mercy ships, because it was an all-around beautiful experience. And I could just recommend it to anyone who has ever thought about doing these kind of volunteering to go and volunteer on the Mercy ships, it will be for sure a life-changing experience.